You are now listening to the Talent Planner Show. This show is for growth-minded SMB leaders who want to minimize their people issues and maximize their company's growth. How they do that is through talent planning. And on this show, we help leaders, we help you master talent planning through interviews with talent planners winning the battle for talent, processes, tools, and methodologies we're using with leaders here at MyTalentPlanner to minimize their people issues and maximize their company's growth. I'm your host, Jordan Ogren, the marketing manager here at MyTalentPlanner. And as always, I'm with the road warrior, the talent planner, and the CEO and founder of MyTalentPlanner, Steve Van Remortel. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, Jordan.
Nice to see you as always. And one of the first things that we cover is the one thing. But before we cover the one thing, I want to just share today's topic. We're going to be covering the 7 steps of the talent planning process. So whether you're coming into your planning process for 2023, or maybe you already have a strategy and talent and you're trying to evolve those or trying to improve them, or maybe you're just looking to change it up or you don't have one, this podcast will help you understand our process and how we help companies execute talent planning. So Steve, what is your one thing for this week?
Yeah, the one thing that came out of this week is we added a new team member. Alex has joined MyTalentPlanner as our customer success specialist, and so his responsibility is to make our current customers happy on the software and help them, fully utilize the power of the software to solve their people issues and accelerate the growth of their company and their people. So we're excited to have him on board. And the one takeaway is we had his orientation this week, and we put the strategy and talent plan through MyTalentPlanner on the screen with the team in the room, and we walked through our strategy and talent plan. And candidly, the takeaway we had is it really took Alex from 0 to 60 in understanding our business, because it was all in one place. It was organized, so we had the org structure there, we had the vision, we had our goals, we had our metrics, and so it was just it just felt good, because one of our objectives in the software is to have everything in one place, and you can pull it up from anywhere, anytime, because it's in the cloud. And so we were able to experience some of our the benefit of being on MyTalentPlanner this week, and so it was just uplifting, and but it really shortened his orientation time from a standpoint of understanding where we're going and what we want to accomplish and his role in that. And so it just felt good, to be honest with you. That was a big thing from this week.
And you preach a lot the two important clarities, strategic and that role clarity. And I think to your point, that the software quickly helped him gain that clarity. Okay, what's my role? What's the strategic clarity? Where are we going as a company? And then what's my role as a customer success specialist in that? And that's huge, because it takes probably some people their entire time at a company to fully realize what am I.
Yeah, as you know, we can measure role clarity with one of our behavioral science assessment tools, and over the 20 some years of doing this, there's 2 key responsibilities that leadership has. It's providing strategic clarity, where are we going, and then role clarity to each team member. What is my role in achieving that where we're going? What is my role in that? And for Alex to be able to understand that quickly this week really gets us off gets him out of the box real quickly. And to me, that's key with any new hire, is getting immediate impact from the new team member, and really having a ramp up of 2 or 3 weeks versus 2 or 3 months is a game changer in today's marketplace. So that was just a really cool experience that I wanted to share, because adding new team members can really bog you down, and in this case it really added energy to our organization. And I could just tell that he really enjoyed it from a standpoint of getting as much clarity as he can as quickly as possible, because he wants to have impact.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, it's been a fun experience eating our own dog food, as they say.
Yeah.
Awesome, Steve. All right, so let's jump into it. Steve, if you want to just take from a high level, what is the talent planning process, and maybe even just touch on what is talent planning for anybody who missed our last few episodes.
Yeah, and so just to back up a second to your opening, Jordan, when we talked about our topic for today, it was really, how can we help leaders lay out or improve their planning process that's coming up here? A lot of companies are on a calendar year, right? So their planning typically starts in August. They start evaluating what their process looks like and do they want to change it this year. And so our objective out of this podcast today is really to give all leaders some ideas on how they can evaluate their current planning process and improve it. And so if you're a leader that doesn't have a planning process for your organization, this is a great podcast to listen to. If you're a leader that has a strategy or vision in place, but you don't have a talent plan to execute that strategy, so if you have a 3-year vision and you want to put a 3-year talent plan in place to proactively solve your people issues, man, this is a great podcast. And if you're just looking to change up your process a little bit, so really the outcome of today and what we want to deliver to you as SMB leaders is really how can we get better at planning, and sharing with you the process that we have done hundreds of times to the point where we've taken out the fluff, we've taken out the things that don't bring high value, and really have focused this down to 7 steps to to really have the right strategy and the right people in each seat executing that strategy. So that's why I'm excited about the podcast today, because it gives leaders an opportunity to evaluate how they're currently doing things and then make a few adjustments to do it better and have a better strategy going into 2023. To your question, I just wanted to back up there to kind of set the stage. But to your question, talent planning is really working upstream to solve your people issues before they impact the business. And you do that by if you have a 3-year vision, putting a 3-year talent plan together. And our last 2 or 3 podcasts have really dove deep into what talent planning is. And we actually had a talent planner, a CEO of a company that's implemented talent planning in one of our last podcasts to talk about what it's done for their organization. So want to encourage you to go back a couple weeks and do a deep dive on what talent planning is. But in general terms, talent planning it's putting a multi-year talent plan in place at the leadership team level, in each department, and for each individual person in your organization to maximize their growth and ultimately accelerate the growth of the business. And so again, just wanted to touch on what talent planning is. If you haven't listened to previous podcasts, I'd encourage you to do that. But talent planning is it's about being proactive in solving your people issues before they impact the business versus reactive. So that's what talent planning is. And we really hit it hard last week in doing that. So let's talk about, when you think about, as an SMB leader, when you think about your planning process, think about it as I share with you these steps and see if there's any value that these steps can add to your process. So there are 7 steps in our talent planning process, and as I've said, we fine-tune this thing. When I wrote my first book back in 2012 on strategy, it was a very deep strategy book. But we've really fine-tuned this process to make it simple and to make it DIY for companies to do themselves. So there are 7 steps to the talent planning process. The first one is just process prep. It's getting prepared for the process. Pretty simple stuff. And then there's 3 sessions. Step 2 is the first session, and that's the team development session. Step 3 is the strategy session, where we really write the core strategy for the business. Step 4 then is, once we have the strategy in place for the business, what does our talent plan, our talent vision need to look like to achieve that strategy? So step 2, step 3, and step 4 are sessions that the leadership team or the planning team go through to write their strategy and talent plan. And then step 5 is where the leader starts putting the talent plan in place for the leadership team. So what are all the things that have to happen on the leadership team to get us from where we are today to where we need to be in the future to achieve that strategy? And then step 6 is really where the leader starts working with each department leader, each of his or her direct reports, to put a talent plan in place for each department. And now you're putting talent planning through the whole organization. And you're watching your people issues come down and your people shortages get minimized because you're working upstream. And then the execution cadence is really about creating this rhythm to the organization to execute your strategy and talent plan. So at a high level, step 1 is prep. Step 2 is team development exercise to prepare for the process. Step 3 is the strategy session. Step 4 is your talent vision and goals session. Step 5, the leader puts the talent plan in place for the leadership team. Step 6 is then we put department plans in place that includes a talent plan for each department. And then step 7 is the execution cadence. So that's the process at a high level.
So before you get into the in-depth, Steve, a question I have, or I'm just thinking right now, is why do you have one process to create these different plans rather than separate processes to create your strategy? One process, a different process to create your talent plan, and another process to create your execution plan. Why have one process for all three?
Because what's key to success in a SMB, in a small to medium-sized business, is that your talent decisions and your talent plans are tied to your strategy. I mean, that's the power of talent planning, is that everything that we do with our talent and need to do with our talent becomes part of our plan because we know what we need to get done to get to that vision that we put together. So if we have a very unique strategy, what does our talent plan need to look like to deliver that? So having a separate strategy process and a separate talent process, I mean, they're tied together. And you and I, over the last couple of years, have interviewed over 100 SMB leaders. And one of the things that they constantly talk to us about is, how do I solve my people issues and how do I plan for talent and tie it to my strategy? So the strategy, talent, and execution together is really the uniqueness of talent planning, because all your talent decisions are tied to your strategy, and then you execute that strategy and talent plan together through your execution cadence. So strategy, talent, and execution in one process, all tied together, creates a very efficient, but leads to just a killer strategy and talent plan that allows you to realize the full growth potential of your organization, because you're not having people issues limit the growth of your business.
Yeah, we've talked too on the podcast in recent episodes about the system of this strategy, talent, execution, how they're always kind of improving each other as you optimize and refine one of them. And that's the key of the process, is it just puts you in the place to have them all connected, rather than if you do use separate processes or one-off processes to get a talent plan or to get a strategic plan, they won't be connected and they could be pulling at in different directions. So it's an important point.
Yeah. And I've been asked, hey, can I put a talent plan together if I don't have a strategy or if I don't have a vision? And yeah, you could, but what are you basing your talent decisions on then, right? If you don't have a strategy written, or you don't know where you're going, then how do you know what talent you need? So the power of talent planning is tying all those talent decisions and all the actions you're going to take, who you're going to hire, who you're going to promote, who you need to retain, right? Who are your high performers you need to retain? What's the session plans that we have to put in place? All that is based on your strategy. So tying them all together brings all of it together and allows you to be very efficient in the development execution of your plan.
That's good. Yeah. And that's why the process is built the way it is so you can do those things in the perfect order. So I think that's a good time, Steve, to just jump into it and kind of go add in depth on each of these steps, really what's important in each of them, to just help somebody maybe doing it on their own to do the talent planning process.
Yeah, so what I'll do here is I'll cover each step and cover the key points of each step. And then at the end of the podcast, we'll provide several resources that you can use to evaluate your planning process and to make updates to it and provide you a lot of resources to do that. So what we did over the last several years in interviewing all those SMB leaders is we really evaluated our current planning process and really boiled it down to 7 steps to make it easy. One thing I've learned in 22 years of strategy and talent planning is that when it comes to strategy and execution, simple gets executed, complicated does not. That has been one big takeaway. And so 7 steps. That's 7 steps. Think about it. 7 steps to know where we're going and to have all the answers to our talent issues in one place. I mean, so that's powerful. That's why I get excited talking about talent planning. So the first step is prep. And really one of the big takeaways about prep is really just putting the process together and thinking about who's going through the process. So, we talk about selecting the planning team. Oftentimes the planning team will be the leadership team, but sometimes companies will add other members of their organization to the planning team because they're very strategic and they can bring value to the process. An example is a lot of times companies might add their top performing sales person because they can bring the voice of the customer to the process. That's an example. But oftentimes as we're going through this process, we talk about the planning team. It sometimes is synonymous to the leadership team. So that's really one of the big decisions in process prep is who's going to go through the process. of really defining the high-level strategy. But then when you get to step 5 and step 6 of the process, now you're engaging the rest of the organization in writing the plan as we really go to execute the plan through department planning. So step 1, one of the big takeaways is who's on the planning team. And then one of the other things that we talk to companies about all the time is, how much time do you have between each of the 3 sessions? And we always talk about 2 weeks. It's got to be at least 2 weeks between each session because team members have their day job they have to get done, and then they have their homework for the planning process. If it goes longer than 4 weeks between each session, you really lose a lot of momentum in the process. So we have found that anywhere from 2 to 3 weeks is the optimum time frame between sessions because it keeps momentum going, it keeps the team on fire. But we don't get too far apart and lose momentum. So those are a couple key takeaways from step number 1, which we call process prep. So let's go into step 2. Step 2 is the first session. It's a team development exercise. And people often say, Steve, why don't we just write strategy? Let's get at it, okay? And so when I first started doing this, again, 22 years ago, we'd put the leadership team or the planning team in the room to write strategy, and it was like pulling teeth. We'd start the meeting at 8:30, and everyone's sitting there quiet and they're stiff and they're kind of feeling this thing out, and we're not in a good place to write the best strategy. We're not, as a team, we're not together and we're not all in alignment. We can't have the tough conversations about the most sensitive issues holding the company back. And so we created this team development exercise that our clients affectionately call getting the team in their underwear, because that's what it does. It gets a team ready to have the tough conversations. It's a really powerful process because each team member gets up in front of the room with their behavioral science assessment results on the screen and tells their story. And their story is what created those behavioral science assessments. And who they are is in those behavioral science assessments. So through their story and seeing their science results, we learn about a person at a depth we never thought possible. So it really what I love about the team development exercise is as the team is, sharing their story, and there's a lot of emotion and tears and happiness, and you just watch the team just come together. And now we're ready to have the tough conversations. Now we're ready to write the best strategy for the business we possibly could write, because there's nothing, after going through that process, there's nothing that we can't talk about. The old double negative sentence, right, Jordan? I don't know. After 20 years, I don't even know how to phrase it better. It's that there's nothing we can't talk about in our session after that team development exercise. So step 2 is getting the team ready. Step 3 is the strategy session. And this is where there's homework teams between step 2 and step 3, and then the homework teams need to bring their recommended strategy and vision for the business. And we always make it competitive. We make it fun. Like, who's going to bring the best strategy to the step number 3, to the strategy session? And we do have fun. We name the teams. Teams get to name themselves. And they get to, each team member and each team gets to present where they think the business should go. So we get all these great ideas on the table, and then we boil all that down to, okay, what do we agree on as the vision for the business? And so that's step 3, the strategy session. And then if we keep moving on here to step 4 is the last of the 3 sessions that the planning team goes through. And step 4 is about creating the talent vision. How are we going to, so let me back up. The talent vision is, if we have a 3-year strategic vision for a business, what does our talent need to look like by the time we get there? Our people, right? What does our organization need to look like to achieve that 3-year vision? So the talent vision is the future functional structure that needs to be in place at the end of that 3 years to achieve it. So if we're a $30 million business today, and we develop this strategy 3 years out, and we're going to be a $45 million business in 3 years, what does our functional structure need to look like in 3 years to support a $45 million business that is executing this strategy and this differentiation? And so each homework team presents the functional structure that they think needs to be in place by the end of 3 years, and we take all those ideas and we boil it down to that future functional structure, and now that becomes the basis for the talent vision. And then in that last session, we set the goals for the first sprint. and we execute to make the planning process agile. We execute in sprints. So our organization likes to do 3 sprints a year at 4 months in length because they give us a little bit longer time to execute. A lot of organizations like to do 4 3-month sprints because it ties to their fiscal quarters, and so it creates a rhythm to their planning process for the year. So you create your goals for the first sprint in that last session, and then you end the planning process with the team, and you move on to step 5. Step 5 now, the leader of the organization takes the vision and takes the talent vision and starts developing the 3-year talent plan for the leadership team. So what are the strengths of our leadership team? What are the blind spots? Who are the high potentials we got to retain? What is the development priorities, or let me back up. What are the skill set gaps that we have on our leadership team to achieve that strategy and that vision we put together? And then is there any succession planning we have to do? And then with all that information, what is the prioritized order of new hires and promotions that we're going to make over the next 3 years to build out the leadership team to get to that future functional structure, that talent vision that we put together? So the leader uses the talent plan template to build out their talent plan, which lays out everything they need to get done from a talent perspective to achieve that vision. And it's a very powerful process for the leader to go through. And there's a lot of tools that we provide the leader to work through their talent plan. 9-box is a very common tool that we provide. Behavioral science assessments. Having the behavioral science assessments on every member of your leadership team really helps you understand the strengths they bring, the blind spots, and it really gives you a incredible information to build out that talent plan. And how can I develop each direct report to move them towards where they need to be in 3 years to help us deliver this strategy? So it's a very breakthrough process for the leader, and one that then once their first year plan is in place, they keep building on that as they go. So that is the step 5 of the process. Step 6 of 7 steps is the department planning process. So in the last step, the leader put the talent plan in place for the leadership team. Now the leader works with each of his or her direct reports, and they are the department leaders to put a talent plan and a department plan in place in each department. So, for example, here we have a marketing department. So I work with you, Jordan, right, to put the talent plan together for the marketing team. We put the talent plan together for the customer success team. We put the talent plan together for our operations team. So we have a 3-year talent plan for each department in our organization, which again minimizes our people issues and our people shortages because we're planning out ahead, right? We're laying things out, and so there's no surprises, and we can prepare ourselves much better to make those talent decisions when we get there. Other things that are included in the department plans would be all the action plans, or what we call the act-on plans that each department's going to execute to deliver the goals. Act on is about working on the business. So what are all the things that we're going to do to work on the business in each department to achieve those goals? Department planning is really where strategy gets turned into action. And it's really where you engage everybody in the organization to work on the business. In every department at every level, we encourage companies to have every team member in the organization have act-on plans, as we call them, to work on the business. Because as you get everybody working on the business, like the flywheel, the organization just accelerates and takes off. And we execute our goals for the sprint, and then we reset our goals at the start of each sprint, and then we're taking another step towards that vision. So department planning is how we take our strategy to action. It's how we engage every team member in the organization. It's a powerful, powerful step.
It was, I think, 2017, you had a speech in Phoenix, and you said the companies who are killing it, the companies who are growing the fastest, are companies who master department planning. So this has been something you've been preaching for a long time, that the companies that are putting their strategy into action and achieving their vision, whatever that may be, are mastering department planning, which within that, as you explained, is talent planning, is some of the bits that we talk a lot about on this show. So I just wanted to double tap on that because that's important, this department planning piece.
The department planning is very important because, you can't put everybody in the room to write the strategy. It has to be a select group of people because we have to deliver for our customers, and you can't put 50, 100, 150 people in a room to write strategy. But department planning is where you engage the entire organization in the strategy of the business, in the execution of the strategy and talent plan. And what is the first step in step 6 of department planning is presenting the strategy and talent plan that the leadership team or the planning team put together with their input, is presenting that to the company and saying, guys, here's where we're going, and here's how you engage in it. And so you engage everybody in the organization in the planning and execution of the business in step 6. And that's when you're taking off. That's when you see companies doing this, because not only are they're working on the business to get better at working in the business, but we're serving our customers better. We're getting more done in a day. We're getting greater return on our assets that are in play, be it our people assets, our physical assets, our equipment, because we keep getting better at on the business. And when you're good at on the business, you're going to be really good at in the business. And you're going to be the best in your industry. You're going to dominate your industry. Yeah, department planning is key, so I appreciate you kind of bringing that out. And then if we move on to step 7 of the 7 steps, the execution cadence, it's just about executing the plan that you put together. And so there's the leadership teams meeting weekly, departments are meeting weekly or bi-weekly. We have best practices that we recommend, but then companies kind of adjust the execution cadence to what works best for them, which we totally support, right? Some companies like to meet more often and shorter time frame. Other companies like to meet less but have longer meetings, and that's really up to you. The leadership team should, from our standpoint, the leadership team should meet weekly. Departments should meet at least weekly or bi-weekly. For our sprint meetings, for plan execution meetings here, we meet every 2 weeks to execute our plan and make sure all the act-on plans are getting done. And then we obviously have our sprint meetings every 4 months, and then we have our company meetings after each sprint meeting. So the cadence really just creates this rhythm. And next thing you know, you just accomplished all your goals in that 4 months. You reset, and now you got another set of goals you're achieving. And so every sprint is another step towards achieving that vision. And so it just creates this rhythm for your organization. Everybody knows when we're going to meet, so accountability is very clear, and it just creates this rhythm for the organization. Everybody knows when we're going to get together. They know that they're going to get updated on how the company's doing. They're going to get engaged in where they can take part in the process. So execution cadence, this is a very important step because it keeps the execution of the plan real and alive and well. It doesn't go on a shelf because every week we're talking about it.
Yeah, and just to double tap on the objective, the goal is to create that cadence. You share our maybe weeks that we like to do it, but really we've had leaders who do plan execution every week. It's really, what do you need? What does your business need to create that cadence, that rhythm to get things done? To your point, greater productivity and just greater accountability because it's always in front of us. That's great. Yeah.
One of the things that are key to talent planning is giving everybody in the organization visibility to where we're going, accessibility to what we're working on, and accountability. Those are key words that talent planning and candidly MyTalentPlanner software bring to companies, is that anybody can see where we're at, how we're doing, what the metrics are, who's working on what. If I'm in an organization, I can click on the org structure and see, hey, I'm going to go work with Jordan today on something. I can see his behavioral style and how to communicate with him and stuff. And so everything's in one place, and that's what makes the software so powerful in executing talent planning, is because anybody in your organization can see it at any time and access it regardless of where they are or when it is.
And those are benefits we're experiencing, and those are words that our customers are saying back to us. So we're not just using accessibility, all these words, they are what our customers are saying when we ask them, what are you getting most from the software or from talent planning with software? And that's their answers. So definitely does lead to that, which leads into the final topic, Steve, other than what can a leader do to start, is just to wrap up, what are the main benefits leaders of SMBs receive from talent planning, just to put it more in a list as you've talked to a lot of the benefits throughout this show.
Yeah, so talent planning, number one, it's the first benefit is that it's a mindset shift, right? you're moving to be much more proactive in how you're dealing with your people issues. Instead of them coming at you, you're going at them, right? You're working way upstream to solve them before they ever surface in the business. So the number one takeaway is that we are going to become proactive in how we're dealing with the people challenges, the number one issue that most companies are facing, candidly. Another benefit is that you minimize the impact that those people issues have on the businesses. So the number of open positions comes down. The number of dysfunction or people issues you have comes down, right? And so what happens when you minimize the people issue impact on your business? You're going to realize the full growth potential of your organization. I've been talking to a lot of leaders, and they could be 50 million, but they're only 45 million because they have open positions or they don't have the right person. Talent planning eliminates all of that because, again, you're working upstream to solve that stuff before they impact the business. So you realize your full growth potential. You minimize the people issues on the business. Your organization has strategic clarity. They have role clarity. They understand exactly what their role is in executing that plan and where we're going. You also have accountability across the organization, which accountability can be kind of tough for a lot of companies because it feels like conflict, and candidly, it's healthy conflict accountability is. And high-performance organizations have accountability across their organization. So the benefits of talent planning are numerous, and we're seeing a lot of our clients really enjoy the benefits of that, where other companies are really being impacted by the people shortage. A lot of companies that have mastered talent planning are minimizing the impact of the people issues, which allows them to then fulfill their potential in a lot of different ways, right? Not only at the top line and the bottom line, but really it just makes running a business a lot more fun because we are going at the issue that, we're being proactive in solving our toughest issue versus letting it keep pounding on us. And because that can be kind of, that can wear you down as we've seen over time.
Yeah, definitely. Something that came to mind, Steve, I'm an analogy, metaphor kind of guy, is just realizing the full potential. I think all humans have a full potential or their best version of themselves that they can be if they're proactive. If I wake up early enough to do X, Y, and Z, and I get proactive about my health rather than getting hit by it when I go in for my checkup of this happening. So the correlate for me is so just clear of companies are a group of people, but it's the same way where a company can be slugger, it can be not reaching its best version of itself, and talent planning is a way to shift you into that mindset to kind of help you, guide you up to that point where you can do these proactive tasks where it was, I didn't have enough time before to do this, now I can, and holy moly, I'm actually gaining time by doing it, into that paradox of time that we've talked about. So I just, as a person who does a lot of personal development and works on his body and his health, I couldn't help see the connection of a company getting proactive about its issues and just getting real about some of the things which a team development exercise helps you get real with people about issues or things going on. So yeah, that's really good, Steve.
I mean, that point right there, Jordan, about your health, right? So that's another benefit of talent planning is that you develop the total person, right? So you and I have had a lot of conversations about how do we become better as people, right? Not just as leaders, not just as team members, but as people. Talent planning develops the total person. So you and I have a lot of conversations about how we can, feel healthier, right? Be healthier, because we're developing the total person. So that's a benefit of talent planning that just that conversation brought up, right? The other things that talent planning brings is it ties all your talent decisions to your strategy. So it gives you a filter to make talent decisions. And most importantly, talent planning helps companies succeed and win. Because, again, when you define what winning looks like and you're resolving the number one issue keeping you from winning, you're going to win more times. And so what we love to do with our companies that we work with and interact with is help them win, because when they celebrate the winning, we love to be a part of that. So what's one of the greatest benefits of talent planning? It's winning, whatever that means to you. If that's dominating your industry, if it's having a fat bottom line, if it's having retaining all of your team members. I mean, talent planning is one of the key facets of talent planning is retention. And you and I know how many companies are talking to us about that right now. Like, if I just keep the people I have, and I add a couple new people I gain, right? I gain. I don't break even or lose in the talent battle because I can't keep my current team members. And so another key takeaway or benefit is that retention piece, which candidly has been a huge focus of a lot of companies over the last year to 2 years because of the so-called Great Resignation.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see or hear the leader on the other side of this podcast just itching. Okay, Steve, what do I do? Where do I go? Okay, the process is laid in front of me. Do I just go through it start to finish? Is there any tips you can give a leader where whether they have a process, they don't have a process that's defined, what would you say to a leader of where to start?
So the simple step for me is take your current process, or if you don't have one, start putting it on paper and just lay out your current process and look for ways to improve it. You know, one of in the Zach Kelly podcast a couple weeks ago, he calls it getting ready to plan or planning to plan. We have a saying here at Stop the Vanilla in My Talent Planner that a great process leads to a great process. So one of the things that we always do first is lay out the process. And we make sure that this process is going to achieve the objectives of the organization or the objectives of the project. So when you spend some time laying out your process, then trust the process and execute it. And so my call to action for all SMB leaders is, you know, we're coming into August right now. Plan to plan. What is the process that you want to take your team through to create a strategy and a talent plan for your organization? So if you don't have a process, let's get one on paper. Use the 7 steps that we just talked about today as the foundation for your own process. Make it your own. We want you to make it your own. If you have a process where you've created a strategy, you created a vision, but you don't have a talent plan, add talent planning to your process, right? Whoever masters talent planning over the next 3 to 5 years is going to win the battle for talent. We've seen that already. Talent planners are winning the battle for talent. And so create a new process, update your current process, or just challenge your current process to how can it be better. So the one call to action is put your process on paper, evaluate it, work on it, fine tune it, get the input of the team and other people. And then once you have the process laid out, trust the process, execute your process. So that would be the takeaway, because as we've learned, and this probably one of the biggest top 3 takeaways in my 20-some years of doing this, is a great process leads to a great process. So how about we take time right now to sort out what the steps of that process look like. And the next thing you'll probably lead into, Jordan, so I'll segue us for that, is resources that leaders can use to build out that process. So the first resource I would provide, in addition to this podcast, obviously, is our book, Talent Planning. It really dives into what is talent planning, how do you talent plan. It gets into the details of each step. And you can execute talent planning using the templates that are at MyTalentPlanner.com. Or if you want to execute talent planning, you can use the software MyTalentPlanner and just reach out to us at Steve at MyTalentPlanner, and we'll share MyTalentPlanner with you. And if it fits for you, the organization, then let's do that. But the biggest emphasis I can make is consider talent planning for your organization. It is the future. Talent planning will be a huge category in 2 or 3 years, because I can tell you right now, the companies that are winning the battle for talent are talent planning. And so implement talent planning into your process and use our resources to do it. Do it yourself. Now, once you believe that talent planning can help your organization, then My Talent Planner can be a tool to help automate and scale talent planning in your organization. The first question is talent planning for you? And then the second question is, if it is, then should we use software and technology to help automate and scale talent planning in our organization? Like we experienced this week, I'll go back to the one thing this week. Man, the orientation for Alex, our new team member, just like that, because all we did was log into My Talent Planner, share the strategy, share our goals, talk about where we're at, talk about what we want to achieve. It didn't take him long to figure out where we're headed and how he can be a part of that. And so just kind of wrapping this whole podcast, take the last thing, tie it to the first thing, there you go. Having it all in one place and executing it, that's the power of talent planning and My Talent Planner. So really take some time and have a great process, and then trust that process as you're executing it.
Yes, that's a great finish, Steve. I'll have all those resources you shared in the show notes. So if you're listening to this, if you're on YouTube, check the show notes and you can download, you can find the book, find everything Steve's talking about. And if you want to use software, you can get 14 days free using My Talent Planner to see if it's right for you. So there is that as well. If you're unsure, you can kind of take a risk-free approach to validating it for your company. So as Steve said, the future of talent is talent planning, and those who win in the future are talent planners, and that's what the show is about, to help you become a talent planner. Thank you for joining us, Steve.
Talent planner, baby.
Have a good one.
All right. Have a great weekend. See ya.